Hi, my name is Aaron Salisbury, and I am in Project and Portfolio 4, and I am working on the Mega Man 2 team. Today I'm going to be showing off the features that I added to that game, which are the art assets for the Robo Rabbit and SC Worm enemies, as well as the enemies functionality for the Robo Rabbit and SC Worm. So, for the art assets for them, we're going to be looking first at the sprites for the Robo Rabbit, which include the carrot's left and right projectile, the idle for the rabbit being the left and right, the jump left and jump right, the land left and right, and then we'll also be looking at the SC Worms sprites, which are the base 1, base 2, base 3, base 4, and projectile 1 and 2 being the left and right respectively. So now let's look at those animations I made in game. As you can see, the rabbit will immediately jump to the left towards the player and land, but we're going to look at that one more time before we go see the SC Worm. There it is, and now he returns to idle. So let's go see the SC Worm, which looks perfect with it firing its projectiles after its animation and then going on cooldown. So now let's look at the enemies themselves for coding purposes. First we have the prefab for the Robo Rabbit, which is himself and his carrot. Then we also have the scripts for those, being the rabbit script and the carrot script. So now let's look at their functionality in game completely. First we have the rabbit jumping towards the player and then firing 3 projectiles. Now if we go over to the rabbit's other side, he will change direction and continue firing projectiles. He can also fire them at angles depending on what's needed. As you can see, those projectiles do damage the player. We can also destroy the rabbit with 5 bullets. Now let's look at how that was done. So we go into the Robo Rabbit's AI. As you can see, we'll start from the top. This script is used to control the movement, attacking, and animations. First off, we have all the variables I used, as well as the declarations for their values. In the update, we use the phases to determine where he should be. You can read the comments for exactly how it's all working. We determined what sprites he should be in, whether Mega Man is to the left or right. We then determine the jumping with the values to jump towards Mega Man to the left or right, and also into the firing phase, which produces the projectile. This area controls most of the projectile's code, with only a few actually being in the carrot's code. Let's look at the carrot. All the carrot's code does is control what happens upon collision with certain things, such as the environment and other projectiles. It will ignore, but it will deal damage to the player and destroy itself on contact with them. So that is how the Robo Rabbit enemy functions. And now we'll move on to my other scripted feature, which is the SC Worm, which also has 2 prefabs, being the SC Worm's base and also the projectile for the SC Worm. It also has 2 scripts, one for the SC Worm and one for its projectile. So let's look at how it functions in game. First, as you'll notice, the SC Worm is not firing because we are out of its maximum range. Then we can also notice that once we get in range, it has another range determining how far it can actually fire. But this adjusts to where Mega Man is, so he can always be damaged. This can fire in both left and right. You can see he can also be damaged by the projectiles. And as you may have noticed before, the projectiles do... Sorry about that. The projectiles do pass through one another, as well as Mega Man himself. It can be destroyed as well. I'm going to try to show you that the projectiles themselves can be destroyed with 3 hits, as well as the base, which you saw, and they will fire a varied amount. This time was 2, but another time could be 3 or could be 1. So now let's look at the code which is controlling them. First, let's look at the SC worms. These are the variables that I am using, and these are the sprites. This is the decoration. This determines how far Mega Man is away from the base. It checks the max range to see which one, if it should be firing. This controls the animation between it. And once it reaches the final phase, it will then shoot its projectile and reset. Checking if it is on cooldown is another big part, because we don't want it to continue firing. And yeah, that is the enemy. If you want a closer look, you can always look at the commented code, since everything is commented. Then we have the projectile, which is pretty simple since most of its code was from the SC worm. And all it really does is make sure to change its animation, and it will also check for collision with the player and the enemies in the game, whether to ignore them if they're enemies, and to deal damage if they're the player. So that is what I added to the project. This scene is just a scene for showing off those 2 enemies. I hope you enjoyed, and thank you for watching.